The morning sky over Dravaris station was a pale sheet of violet, streaked with the soft amber of its parent star. Wind swept low across the sprawling grain fields, bending stalks in rhythmic waves, a vision of peace that belied the tension simmering beneath the soil. Inside the central command dome, Governor Kalen Miles stood at the main console, shoulders tight, eyes fixed on the flickering holodisplay that repeated a single phrase in red. Beacon signal lost, origin unknown. Kalen was not a man who panicked. Once a naval tactician for Earth's outer defense grid, he'd seen more battles than harvests. But he'd never seen anything like this. The signal had come from Holland's Reach, a minor settlement just 3 jumps away. They had gone dark without warning, their final transmission a garbled burst of static, screaming and a symbol no human colony should ever transmit the emergency sigil for total planetary loss. Behind him, the airlock slid open and a soft voice cut through the heavy silence. "You summoned me, Governor?" Lena Sori stepped into the room, dust still clinging to her boots from the greenhouses. Her hands, stained with pollen and sap, curled nervously at her sides. She looked like any other colonial botanist, calm, soft-spoken, unarmed. But Kalen saw more in her. There was legacy in her spine, a kind of poise passed through blood. He gestured toward the holomap. "We lost contact with Halon. No known meteor activity, no power fluctuations. The last signal included council-level distress encryption." Lena frowned. "You think it was an attack?" "I know it was," Kalen said. "And if the kravari did to Halon what I think they did, we're next." She stepped closer, scanning the overlay. "But they're part of the council. They can't just destroy. They can. They have. And no one will stop them because officially Earth has no enemies. No fleets. No reach beyond sanctioned space." Kalen moved toward the communication station, his fingers hesitating over the Priority Alpha command. Once he pressed it, Earth would know. But Earth was 42 light-years away. Even with quantum-cum relays, it would take hours. By then, Dravaris could be ash. Lena's gaze fell to the screen. "You're sending it?" "I have to." Callan's voice was steady, but tired. "Even if they can't reach us in time, they need to know." He entered the override code and the beacon activated, transmitting encrypted data across the dark. As the soft hum filled the room, Lena stood still, watching. Later, in the greenhouse, Lena searched for distraction in routine. She moved between nutrient tanks and light panels, but her mind refused to settle. Her mother's datapad still sat untouched at the back of the storage bay. She hadn't opened it in years, not since the funeral. It was encrypted, outdated, and hidden beneath crates of seed samples. But something about today, about Kellen's eyes, about the silence from Holland, it gnawed at her. She unsealed the pad. The encryption took her 20 minutes to bypass. When it finally opened, it revealed blueprints. Not for crops, not for climate. Regulators. But for something she'd only heard of in whispers, a planetary defense grid. A forbidden system powered by solar flux arrays and surface-launched orbital cannons. Her mother had designed this for Earth and never activated it. She stared at the specs. If she shared these, it would confirm what the Council feared, that Earth had been preparing in secret. That humanity was more than compliant settlers with clean hands and bowed heads. The greenhouse lights dimmed. Outside, the winds shifted. Back in command, Kellen's face paled. "Governor," came the voice from the sensor desk, trembling. "Multiple ships detected. Edge of the system. Kravari class. 4 confirmed. No friendly transponders." Kalen slammed a fist against the console. "So it begins." In the darkened greenhouse, Lena looked up at the sky and whispered, "We're not supposed to have weapons. But what if we were never supposed to be alone?" Deep beneath the ice-scarred asteroids of the Kuiper expanse, There was a place that officially didn't exist. No charts marked it, no transponders pinged from its shell. The Galactic Council had deemed this region dead space, fit only for scientific curiosity and long-range probes. And yet, nestled inside asteroid 929 Vega, pulsed a living fortress, the command nexus of Earth's greatest secret, the Contingency Corps. Within that armored womb, Admiral Mark Wren stood alone before the curved display of the situation wall, eyes fixed on the priority alert that flickered red across every screen. Dravaris Station, Priority Alpha attack imminent, hostile signature, Kravari Dominion. He did not blink. The war room behind him buzzed with quiet urgency. Technicians and officers moved between glass interfaces and projected tables. Though they operated in silence, their eyes betrayed what no one dared say aloud. This was it. The moment the galaxy had been warned about. The moment Earth had tried to prevent through a century of silence. Commander Sarah Lynn, second in command of the fleet and Wren's closest advisor, approached from behind. "They've confirmed it's Kravari, sir. 4 ships. No diplomatic code. No prelude. Just movement. Dravaris has maybe 30 hours before full orbit is achieved." Wren nodded slowly, his jaw tense. "And Earth Command? Monitoring. Waiting. President Keller has not yet authorized fleet deployment." Wren's silence thickened the air. Sarah glanced at the blinking alert. "You think they'll do nothing?" "I think," he said coldly, "they'll stall until it's too late." Again. She didn't ask what he meant by again. She already knew. Mark Wren was once the youngest commander in Earth's colonial Navy during the First Contact War, a war that had shattered illusions about humanity's place in the galaxy. Back then, humans had revealed a strength the galaxy didn't expect. Quick innovation, tactical genius, ruthless adaptability. And because of that, the Galactic Council imposed limits. They declared Earth too dangerous to be allowed free technological expansion, so humanity bowed publicly. Privately, they built this. He walked across the command bridge toward the reinforced viewing dome. Outside, lit only by the far-off glint of stars, waited EFS Solaris, the crown of the contingency fleet, over 2 kilometers in length. Weapon systems classified beyond comprehension. A hull constructed from layered quantum fiber composites. At its heart, a singularity-stabilized mass accelerator capable of vaporizing capital-class ships in a single shot. And yet, like all 87 other ships docked in the hidden array, it had never seen open combat. It was a sword held in the shadows, gathering rust on its own patience. Wren broke the silence. "Prep the fleet. No cloak. No disavowals. Full combat signatures." Sarah turned, stunned. "You're going to reveal us? Without presidential order?" "We've waited 100 years, Commander. How many more colonies must fall while we stay silent to appease a council that never truly forgave us for surviving?" He moved to the central console and pressed his palm to the command seal. The room dimmed. Lights shifted from blue to crimson. Threat response protocol. Level Omega. Fleet status. Armed and awaiting deployment. Confirmation required. Admiral Mark Wren. He stared at the blinking confirmation field. "Do you know what they said about U.S. at the Council after Europa burned?" he asked quietly. "They called us infants with fire. Said we couldn't be trusted. And then they placed limits, sanctions, surveillance. Made us sign away our future to be considered safe." He pressed his thumb to the seal. "I didn't survive that war to watch us die in silence." With a hiss of shifting air and ignition. Charge, the fleet stirred. The hangars split open. Artificial gravity recalibrated. All 88 ships powered online in perfect formation. Dormant monsters lifting their heads. From above, The Kuiper veil split like a curtain as Earth's greatest deception uncoiled from its cage in his private quarters. Ren opened a long-forgotten storage locker and pulled free a weathered artifact, the cracked, blood-stained Europa flag, last flown above a burning settlement wiped out during the First War. He stared at it. "My daughter's down there," he said aloud, to no one, "and she thinks we've left them." He placed the flag inside a sealed container and sent it to the Solaris bridge. "Let her see this when we arrive." Across the room, Sora's voice came through the command comms. "Hyperspace coordinates locked. Estimated jump time, 3 minutes. Final confirmation?" Ren stepped onto the bridge as sirens sounded and warning lights pulsed across the walls. He stood beneath the massive domed viewport where the thunder of engines began to hum through the structure. "Send a single line to the council," he said. "Just one." "What should it say?" Ren narrowed his eyes at the distant stars. "We asked for peace. We prepared for war. And now we bring both." The contingency fleet leapt forward, vanishing into the fabric of space. The sky above dravaris Station had changed. Gone was the gentle amber glow of the dawn star. Now it pulsed with streaks of violent red, a warped aurora smeared across the upper atmosphere. Most colonists assumed it was ion turbulence, but those in the command tower knew better. That wasn't weather. It was engine burn from warships too massive and too close. The kravari were here. In the central spire of the colony, Governor Kalen Miles stood before the surface-wide broadcast terminal, adjusting the collar of his coat with trembling fingers. He was a soldier by training, but he'd spent the last decade growing food and keeping peace. It had been a good lie pretending the galaxy wasn't sharpening knives beyond the stars. Now it was over. "Begin transmission," he said softly. All across Dravaris the screens activated. Inside greenhouses, medical bays, schools, and sleeping quarters, his image appeared hollow-eyed, backlit by warning lights. "Citizens of Dravaris," he began, "this is not a drill. We have confirmed the presence of kravari warships at the edge of our system. They are not responding to hails. We have entered full emergency status." He hesitated, not for effect but because his voice threatened to break. "You have 12 minutes to reach assigned bunkers. Take only emergency packs. Leave non-essentials. Children are priority one." He lowered his gaze. "May Earth remember us. May we be worthy of its memory." The screens went blacked out behind him. Defense Technician Mara called out, voice thin with disbelief. "Governor, we're receiving a transmission. It's not audio, not exactly." Kalen turned. The center halotable flickered with strange symbols, looping frequencies carved into light. The alien script pulsed like it was alive. "That's not language," said Malik from sensors. "It's ritual encoding, a declaration of hunt." Kellen's stomach sank. "They're sanctifying the kill." He had heard rumors, never confirmed, that the kravari didn't wage war like others. For them, extermination was holy, a spiritual act. They didn't conquer. They cleansed. And they always warned their prey first. 12 ships breached orbit. They came without sound, without preamble. Massive black hulls like open jaws, lined with ridged plating that pulsed a dull red. Kravari design was organic grown, not built. Their vessels looked like creatures that had crawled from ancient nightmares and remembered nothing of mercy. From orbit, columns of energy lanced downward. Not random, surgical. The first strike vaporized the central agricultural district. The second ruptured the water filtration towers. The third disintegrated the comms relay tower Kalen had stood in 5 minutes earlier. Had he not moved, he would have died live on every screen. In the lower corridors of the science wing, Lena Sori sprinted through choking dust and falling support beams, clutching the encrypted pad to her chest. Her breath came in short, panicked gasps. All around her, children screamed and alarms wailed. She pushed into a sealed greenhouse where old power lines still worked. The pad flickered to life. Blueprints. Again, defensive satellites. Solar-link surface cannons. The grid her mother had sworn never to activate. She had modified them. Lena realized it now. This wasn't just a theoretical plan. This was real code, ready to deploy. It would take minutes to patch the uplink to the fusion towers, but it was forbidden. If she activated the grid, it would reveal that Earth had never disarmed. It would violate every accord. If the kravari didn't kill them all, the Galactic Council might. She stared at the TOUCHPAD dot outside. Another bombardment hit. The floor shook. The lights died. She heard children sobbing in the dark. Lena pressed her palm to the pad and whispered, "I'm sorry, Mom. Fusion uplink active." Grid arming. Somewhere in orbit, a kravari corvette turned toward the power surge. Too late. The cannons opened fire beams of concentrated plasma lancing upward from hidden towers in the mountains. The first beam struck true, cutting a frigate in half. A second beam blasted through a corvette's hull. Silence filled the command tower. Then cheers. The kravari weren't invincible. Governor Kalin stared at the tactical screen, his voice raw with awe. "Where the hell did we get those weapons?" Malik looked up. "Someone broke the rules." But the celebration lasted only seconds. The kravari retaliated instantly, this time with fury. 10 ships pivoted toward the mountain where the uplink tower sat and unleashed a storm. Lena watched the uplink explode through the greenhouse window. She fell backward, thrown by the shockwave. Blood ran down her arm. The tablet sparked beside her. Its screen shattered. She crawled to it anyway, even broken. It hummed with energy. 3 ships down, she gasped, and they're angry now. In orbit, aboard the kravari command ship, Commander Vethral stood before a viewing altar draped in red plasma silks, his hands folded in prayer. "Let their defiance be our offering," he intoned. "Let their screams fuel the path. Let their ashes sanctify the stars." He turned to his first blade. "Prepare the rite of endings." On dravaris, fire fell from heaven, and in the silence beneath the soil, Lena whispered to the pad, "We weren't supposed to fight, but maybe we were. Never meant to kneel either." The stars were burning. At least, that's how it looked to the surviving colonists of dravaris as the atmosphere above shimmered with the aftershock of plasma bombardments. Buildings cracked like bones under pressure. The sky flashed red and then white, again and again with each impact. Fire rolled across fields that once held grain. Now only ash remained. Beneath it all, deep in Bunker 9B, Governor Kalin Miles leaned over a holomap of the colony, now over 70% red. He didn't speak. Beside him, Lena Sori sat on the floor, arm bandaged, her face pale from blood loss. The ruined tablet lay open on the table, its screen flickering between fragments of blueprints and lines of corrupted code. "I got them," she said weakly. 3 ships, with just one node of the grid, one node. Kellen's voice cracked. "And now they know, now they're being methodical." It was true. The kravari were no longer bombarding randomly. They were erasing the colony section by section, like a surgeon removing infected flesh. They avoided the bunkers for now. It was as if the kravari wanted them to survive long enough to understand what was happening. To witness their own extinction. In orbit, on the kravari command vessel Virak Thul, Commander Vethral stood in a sanctum surrounded by floating hololiths. Each projected an image of dravaris from a different angle. Thermal scans, energy readings, and sacred glyph overlays that formed a geometric pattern of eradication. He dipped his hands into a bowl of red sand and smeared it over his forehead. The rite proceeds. Their struggle only deepens the offering. A young kravari acolyte approached and bowed low. Warfather, we intercepted strange readings, fractures in space near the outer edges of this star system. Vethral turned, 4 eyes blinking slowly. More humans? Not local, not listed. They carry no council identification, no known propulsion signature. But they are large. Vethral stepped toward the sensor hololith the moment he saw. The mass estimates, his breathing paused. 3 kilometers in length. He turned away. It does not matter. They come late. The path is already written. But behind his conviction, something stirred, something unfamiliar, and a kravari commander 40 light years away. Through the ancient corridors of hyperspace, the hfystory hurtled toward dravaris with engines pushed beyond safe limits. The fleet had shed all pretense of stealth. Dreadnoughts blazed through the hyperspace corridor like celestial arrows, trailing gravity shockwaves behind them. On the Solaris bridge, Admiral Mark Wren stood silently, staring into the swirling abyss beyond the forward viewport. The room was filled with deep red lighting combat mode. Every system was live. Every ship was locked into formation. He broke his silence. Time? Commander Sarah Lynn responded instantly. 17 hours, 33 minutes. But that assumes stable corridor conditions. If we push to 112% thrust, we can arrive in 15. We'll need to rebuild 3 drive cores afterward. Wren didn't hesitate. Do it. She nodded. Orders relayed. All ships responding. Around them, tactical holograms showed the growing signature of the kravari fleet. Every data burst from dravaris painted a bleaker picture: plasma strikes, cratered infrastructure, power grid collapse, rising casualties. Wren tapped the edge of the table slowly, almost mechanically. The kravari treat war like worship, he said quietly. They don't just conquer, they unmake. They destroy memory, structure, history. Sarah frowned. Then why haven't they finished dravaris yet? He looked at her. Because they're waiting. For what? For someone to remember. Them. Silence fell again. Elsewhere on the ship, in the Solaris ready room, Wren recorded a message: private, encrypted, locked to activate on arrival. If this is heard, he said, then either I've fallen or we've made it too late. But Lena, I didn't abandon you. The world told me to wait. The council told me we weren't ready, but I remembered Europa. I remembered fire falling on cities while politicians held up treaties like shields. Not again. He closed the message, encrypted it with her DNA key, and uploaded it to the fleet's archival matrix. Then he stood. Prepare transmission, he said. 1 signal, wide band, no encryption. The comms officer turned. To whom, sir? Wren's voice was iron. To everyone. A moment later, across hundreds of systems, a signal pulsed through space. In open defiance of Council protocol, Earth's fleet announced itself. The transmission showed Earth's emblem, a star wrapped in flame, and behind it, the silhouettes of dreadnoughts so massive they eclipsed moons. Then the message played. A single line, delivered in Wren's voice. Humanity has heard your prayers. We are coming. Back on dravaris, inside the shaking bunker, Lena Sori's console pinged once, just once. She staggered to her feet and looked at the display. Emblem burned bright in the dark. She gasped. They answered. Kaelin turned. What? She pressed her hand to her mouth. He's coming. They're all coming. The kravari fleet above dravaris began to move, subtle, organized, precise. Their defensive formations tightened. Fighter squadrons redeployed. They had heard it 2. Inside his sanctum, Vethral stared at the human symbol. He muttered in disbelief. Impossible. Earth has no fleet. Earth is, but even as he said it, another signal came through. A gravitational ripple, warping the edge of the system. Then a second. then a third, then dozens. He stood slowly. What? Have they hidden? And far away, in the cold dark between stars, the sleeping giant began to wake each dreadnought a god of war, each engine burn a heartbeat rising from a century of silence. No one on dravaris saw the moment the first human dreadnought arrived. They felt it. A low, impossible tremor rippled through the ground like the echo of thunder deep within the planet's bones. Lights flickered inside the bunkers. The static on the radios changed pitch. The wounded stopped moaning. Even the children, so quiet now from fear and hunger, lifted their heads as if they too sensed a dot above them. Beyond the crumbling ruins of their colony, the sky darkened unnaturally. Kalen Miles stood just outside the main bunker hatch, flanked by a pair of ash-covered engineers watching the horizon. Smoke curled from the shattered husks of the old grain towers. Beyond them, the last kravari bombardment ship hovered like a blade poised to fall. Then the light came. Not fire. Not plasma. Something cleaner. A white, radiant streak tore across the sky from east to west, trailed by blue ion storms and a roar that didn't stop. Kalen didn't blink. In orbit, the EFS Solaris exited hyperspace with such force that nearby kravari ships were physically thrown off vector, their stabilizers overwhelmed by the sheer gravitational disruption. Behind the Solaris came the rest of the Fleet 88 ships, each a cathedral of firepower, flaring into real space with mathematical precision. Dreadnoughts aligned in spearhead formation. Frigates and assault carriers flowed in organized rings like a dance rehearsed 1,000 times but never performed until now. On the Solaris bridge, Admiral Mark Wren stood with hands clasped behind his back, surrounded by red tactical projections and the rising pitch of alarmed kravari signals. Commander Sarah Lynn didn't need to ask for orders. "They're scattering," she reported. Initial formation disrupted. "Their command ship is repositioning, trying to regroup the ritual fleet." "Too late," Wren replied. "They didn't come expecting war. They came for a sermon." He stepped forward. Broadcast Fleet Command. "Code, this is Wren. All ships, lock primary targets. Dreadnoughts discharge mass accelerators. Fire when ready." A moment later, the thunder truly began. From the spine of the Solaris, the main mass accelerator charged with a sound like mountains. Splitting. A projectile the size of a dropship launched at near relativistic speed, striking a kravari heavy cruiser amidships. The resulting explosion didn't look like anything the Council had ever recorded in combat. It folded space around it, rupturing the hull into molecular vapor. Then came 5 more shots, each from a different dreadnought, each destroying a capital-class kravari vessel in a single, flawless strike. The kravari fleet broke ranks, but Earth's fleet didn't let them retreat. Out from the human carriers swarmed thousands of autonomous interceptors, drone fighters, operating as one, led by AI war clusters with combat subroutines evolved over centuries in secret. The kravari's manned fighters, elegant and individually deadly, found themselves overwhelmed by swarm logic and real-time adaptation. In seconds, Earth's drones adjusted to enemy patterns mid-battle, outpacing them, outmaneuvering them, outthinking them. On the bridge of the kravari command ship, Commander Vethral snarled, all 4 of his eyes flaring gold with anger. This is not possible. Earth was disarmed, their war code broken, their fleet sanctioned into silence. His first blade turned to him, trembling. "It is not just a fleet war, Father. It is an extinction engine." Vethral stared at the holofeed. One by one, his blessed warships fell. Ritual geometries broke apart. Formation dissolved. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were answering centuries of restraint with centuries of preparation. On the surface, in the broken remains of the command bunker, Lena Sori watched the skies change. She had never seen a real human dreadnought. No one had. Only a handful of military. Historians believed they still existed, but now the stars were full of them. Kaelin stepped beside her, awestruck. God help them. They came. Lena didn't speak. She couldn't. Her breath had caught in her chest. On her datapad, a new message arrived, just a single line of voice transmission, encoded to her biometrics, her father's voice. I didn't forget you. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't look away from the sky. A kravari cruiser spiraled down through the clouds, its hull split open. Burning like a second sun. Inside the kravari fleet, chaos reigned. We must fall back. One war priest shouted. No, Vethral growled. We complete the rite. We deliver the last strike to the colony. We leave nothing. But as he raised the command, the Solaris jumped not through hyperspace, but through real space. Quantum displacement blinked it across the battlefield in an instant. It reappeared directly above the kravari command ship, aiming downward. Too late, Vethral looked up. Ren's voice came through the fleet-wide comms, grim and final. Your judgment ends here. The Solaris fired. Not a kinetic round this time, but the secondary weapon, a solar beam laced with gravitic compression. It struck the kravari command ship like the wrath of a dead star. There was no explosion. There was silence. Then, light. A flower of energy bloomed silently in space, curling outward as the hull disintegrated at the atomic level. On dravaris, thousands watched in stunned awe. The kravari ships still in orbit hesitated. Some turned to flee. Others powered down. The war was not over, but the tide had turned in full. Admiral Ren turned to his crew. Begin relief landings. I want medships on the surface within 10 minutes. No delays. As shuttles detached from their carriers and streaked toward the surface, the battered survivors of dravaris stepped out into the daylight, where for the first time they saw Earth's fleet in the sky. Not hidden. Not pretending. Real. Lena turned to Kaelin. They saw us as prey, she whispered. Kaelin smiled through tears. And now they see what hunts. Smoke still curled from the shattered kravari vessels that drifted in low orbit, their once sacred hulls now nothing more than scorched debris. The stars above dravaris had stopped burning, but the sky remained heavy with something deeper than flame. Reckoning. For the survivors on the ground, time moved strangely. The battle was over, yet the adrenaline refused to fade. Families stepped out of bunkers as if emerging from centuries of darkness. Children clutched mothers who hadn't let go since the bombardments began. Engineers and medics rushed between craters, reactivating sensor posts and salvaging broken towers. No one asked if it was real. They knew the fleet had come. From the sky descended ships like Titan, sleek, gleaming not with ornament but with purpose. Medships touched down first, offloading AI triage drones and biofoam pods. Civilian rescue teams followed, each bearing the crest of Earth's unified command. And at the center of it all, the largest shuttle split the sky open, the Solaris. Command drop vessel. Governor Kaelin Miles watched it land in the broken courtyard of the Central Administration Dome, what was left of it. The moment the ramps lowered, his posture stiffened. Dust and ash blew in every direction as armored boots struck the ground. Out stepped Admiral Mark Ren. His uniform was unmarred, pressed and composed. His silver beard glinted in the half-light. His eyes scanned the battlefield not like a general, but like a father walking through the remnants of a funeral he'd tried to prevent. And then she was there. Lena Sori, blood still crusted near her temple, stepped out from the crowd of survivors. They stared at each other, two halves of the same silence. I thought you were dead, she said, voice cracking. I thought they wouldn't dare. Ren replied. No embrace, not yet. Too many years. Too many secrets. But something passed between them anyway, understanding, and the unspoken truth that survival had not come cheap. Kalen stepped forward and saluted. You came. You really came. Ren's gaze sharpened. Dravaris held longer than any colony. Had a right to. You bought us the window. Kalen shook his head. We didn't hold. We bled. Before Ren could reply, his cum crackled. Saralin's voice came through, cold and urgent. Admiral, we've captured the Kravari command ship. Their jump drive was disabled by our secondary barrage. Warfather Vethral is alive. He's being held in stasis aboard the EFS Oberon. He's asked to speak directly to you. Ren's jaw tensed. Make him wait. He turned to Kalen. Prepare a room. I want a secure uplink. If this goes badly, I want every colony leader on Earth to witness it. 30 minutes later, in the shattered remains of the planetary council chamber, Admiral Ren stood before a hollow projector. Beside him, Lena and Kalen flanked the uplink station. Officers and survivors gathered, some still in bandages, some missing limbs, all carrying something heavier memory. The feed activated. Vethral's image emerged, a coiled figure of rage and ritual scars. Even in containment, his eyes burned, with fire unyielding. The Kravari war armor was cracked, his left horn fractured. But he still stood tall, forearms folded with the arrogance of a species bred for conquest. Admiral of Earth, he said, voice translating with mechanical grace. You shame your people with this theater. We offered you oblivion with dignity, and you rejected it. Ren took a slow breath. You came to a peaceful colony. You butchered civilians, children, elders. You turned ritual into genocide. Our way is the right, Vethral snapped. Your colonies were violations of sacred space. You defied the boundaries etched by your council. You feigned weakness for a century, a lie written in orbit. You hide your blades behind diplomacy. Ren stepped forward, voice lowering to steel. You speak of rights. But what we saw was cowardice wrapped in theology. You desecrate the word war with your excuses. The chamber fell quiet. Lena stared at the Kravari image. He doesn't care. He didn't come to speak. He came to mark this moment. Vethral's eyes narrowed. Correct, human. The galaxy will remember this. The Council will not tolerate your revelation. You have unshackled yourselves. Ren replied calmly, Then let them come. Vethral laughed, a harsh, echoing sound. You've awakened more than your fleet. There are powers watching Earth now. You will not go unnoticed again. Ren leaned closer to the projection. Good, he said. We've been silent long. Enough. Then he cut the transmission. On the F Solaris, alarms began to chirp. Admiral, Saralin's voice came through. Long-range sensor anomaly. Dozens of council ships shifting positions. Surveillance arrays tracking sudden subspace interference in the Triaxis Belt and Valkyrus Void. The galaxy is reacting. Ren stared at the stars outside his viewport. There. Afraid, he said. They should be. He turned to the comms officer. Dispatch a fleet-wide message. We are not to retreat. We hold Dravaris. We stabilize it. We rebuild it. Kalen entered behind him. And then? Ren looked at him, tired but resolute. Then we go home, with the truth. And let the Council explain why Earth was never invited to the table, they said. Down on Dravaris, a young girl no more than 10 stood atop a ruined bunker. Her eyes lifted to the sky, where the Solaris hovered like a second moon. She raised her hand, and for the first time in her short life, the sky didn't look like death. It looked like hope. 3 weeks had passed since the sky over Dravaris turned human. In that time, the survivors buried their dead. They rebuilt shelters from the remains of shattered towers. They planted seeds in scorched soil, water carried in buckets from repurposed medships. And at night, when the stars returned, they watched the silhouette of the Solaris hang motionless above them, a symbol of what had come and what was yet to come. But Dravaris was no longer just a colony dot. It was the beginning of something far greater. On the main concourse, rebuilt from steel panels salvaged from downed kravari cruisers, Governor Kalen Miles stood before a crowd of civilians, engineers, and soldiers. Some wore tattered uniforms. Others wore nothing but rations, belts, and pride. And all of them stood shoulder to shoulder beneath a new flag, the Mark of Earth, blazing gold, with a single line beneath it, "We came." Beside him stood Admiral Mark, Ren, and Lena Sori, whose presence now carried weight well beyond her lineage. Not just the daughter of a fleet commander, she had become a bridge between civilian courage and military strength. Kalen stepped forward. "We once believed Earth would protect us with words, with treaties, with signatures on council paper. We believed compliance was the price of peace." He looked up, but when fire fell from the stars and the gods of war walked our skies, Earth did not send us apologies. He gestured to the horizon. They sent thunder. The crowd erupted, the cheers raw and defiant, not in celebration of war, but of survival, of vindication, of memory. High above, on the council world of Virelin Prime, that same moment echoed. In chambers of marble and crystal. The Galactic Council had convened in emergency session. Holograms of the destruction at Dravaris rotated in 3 dimensions before an audience of delegates from every major power. Kravari envoys stood cloaked in ritual veils, their defeat burning on their faces like acid. In the center of it all stood Earth's delegation. President Elena Keller did not bow. She did not flinch. She played the transmission from the kravari invasion. She showed the forensic evidence, civilian casualty scans, ritual markings, weapon signatures, and then she played Earth's response. A single dreadnought obliterating a kravari cruiser with a mass kinetic round. AI-coordinated drone. Swarms disabling fighter wings. The Solaris burning through clouds like a divine blade. The council chamber fell into silence. One delegate, a member of the cautious Valari consulate, spoke first. "You violated over 100 interstellar military accords. You constructed weapons. In secret, you advanced forbidden technologies. Why?" President Keller's reply was calm. "Because we remembered Europa." Some nodded. Some scowled. But none could deny the truth. Earth had not started this war, but they had finished it. Back on Dravaris, inside the new Hall of Remembrance, Lena Sori walked slowly through rows of engraved names. Children, scientists, farmers, fighters, no ranks. Just names. Her mother's name was now etched there too. She reached the final panel and placed her palm against it. A hidden latch opened. Inside was the same datapad her mother had once buried in encryption, now restored, repaired, and preserved. Behind a shielded display. The plaque beneath read, "She did not build weapons, she built time. Enough for us to wake up." Outside, Kalen and Ren stood watching new colonists disembark from a supply ship. Hundreds, not just from Earth, but from aligned colonies: Venari Prime, Listen Reach, Delta Ophir. Word of Earth's defiance had traveled faster than protocols could stop it. The galaxy was shifting. Kalen spoke without looking. "The Council will demand we dismantle the fleet." Ren shook his head. "They can demand whatever they want. They'll sanction Earth again." Ren smiled. "They're welcome to try." Silence settled, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was filled with decision. Kalen turned. "What happens now?" Ren stepped forward, watching the sunrise crest over the new colony spire. "Now we stop apologizing for surviving." Behind him, the sky rippled not with fire, but with arrival. A second human fleet, long held in reserve beyond the edge of council space, began slipping into orbit. Not weapons of war this time, terraformers, carriers, libraries, diplomats. They had come not just to protect, they had come to build. Humanity had spoken through fire. Now it would speak through future and the galaxy. Whether afraid or inspired, would finally listen dot above the growing city. The Solaris turned slightly in orbit, catching the light of Dravari's sun. Its hull gleamed like a watchful eye, never again hidden, never again silent, never again alone.